Hello, everybody, and welcome to session 6 of Glow Your Own. It's so great to come to the conclusion of this 6-week coding and crafting workshop where we use Arduino's Tinkercad and Zoom to make little moving robotic lanterns that can respond to their external environment. It's wonderful to build this with all of you online. As usual, we have Sophie and Sarah and Kate doing coding and troubleshooting. Okay, so I'm going to pass on to Sophie and we can start on with some coding.
We can. Thank you, Dane. And hello, everybody. It's lovely to see you all again. I cannot believe how quickly this has gone. It's really, really a bit scary. So today we are going to be doing using a new component in our circuit, which is a servo motor. So we're going to be adding a component that will allow our lanterns to move. Just as normal, don't worry if we go a little bit fast or anything, because we're recording this so you can watch us back. And if you do have any questions, pop them in the chat and Sarah and Caitlin are there to help you. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen. So here I've got my Tinkercad open and I'm joining with my nickname, which is GYO Sophie. That's me. All right, and I'm going to create a new circuit. But I'm going to do it from the create button because that's how you do it. Sorry, I've forgotten. It's been a long day already today. So creating a circuit. All right, so today, like I said, we are going to be using this. It's called a micro server on Tinkercad, and it's micro servo, sorry. And it's just a little motor that will spin around like this so that we can use it to make our lantern or our light or whatever we want rotate. So we're going to start the same way we normally do by bringing out an Arduino and bringing out a breadboard. If you want, you can use some of the code and circuits that we've used before, and you can just add on the motor. It's up to you. I'm going to do a fresh one just to keep things nice and simple. So I've got my Arduino and my breadboard, and now it is time to save it, give it a sensible name. So this is Glow Your Own session 6, like that. There we go. All right. So the servo circuit is actually really, really nice and simple. So if you pull it out here, you can just pop it here by the side of our Arduino, and then we'll via the breadboard and straight into the Arduino. Now, if I click away from it, you'll see that these 3 wires, these 3 little connections, have different colors. We've got an orange one, a red one, and a black one or a brown one. If I zoom in, maybe we'll be able to tell. Brown, and a lovely brown one. And that's because each of those different wires needs to connect to different things. So we're going to connect one of the wires to some power because the servo motor needs some motor to... The servo motor needs some motor? Sorry, everybody. The servo motor needs some power in order to turn it around. We're going to connect one to the ground. So you remember that we need to have our complete circuit. So it has to go from ground, and then we've got one which is our signal, which we're going to use to send instructions out to our Arduino, to our servo motor, to say, oh, turn around or stop turning, or whatever instructions we want. Now, helpfully on Tinkercad, if you hover over the little holes, the pins of the different things connected to the servo motor, it tells you what you're supposed to connect it to, which is always really, really helpful. So we've got one that will go to the ground, one that will go to the power, and one that's the signal, so sending out those instructions. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is the ground. And we're actually going to connect it up via the breadboard so that you can add in your LEDs later on, and it all goes to the same thing. So we're going to start by connecting the ground one. So that's this one on the left-hand side. I'm going to connect this up here and a wire that goes like that and then goes to the line on my breadboard that is next to the minus sign, to the blue line. And then I'm going to move that up a bit so it's a nice square. And I think I'm going to change the color of my wire as well, so it's brown, so that we know that that is going to the ground. But it does need to connect to the Arduino, so I'm going to connect my ground rail, so this line, to the Arduino down here. Like that. Okay, so now let's trace out our circuit like we often do. We go through our Arduino, we can go through the ground, along this wire, along this line on the breadboard, through the next wire, and then to the ground in the servo motor. That all okay? Do a thumbs up or something in the chat, and so that we know that you are ready to do the next step. Okay, so just gives you a little thumbs up, or Father Christmas, brilliant, or make a reaction. Oh, a lovely picture. Oh, a lovely picture of your circuit. I love that. That's looking perfect. Some bread. Oh, I could eat some French bread. That would be nice. Some cherries. Brilliant. All right. Let's move on and do the next wire. Yeah, let's do the next wire where we're going to go to the power. So we're going to connect our power line to the red line on our Arduino. So that goes from the middle one, middle hole on our servo motor. I'm going to draw a wire to this red line here. But because it's connected to power, I'm going to change the color of my wire to red. So I know that that's a power wire. So that goes like that. It also, on Tinkercad, makes it easier to see that these are different wires. You've got a red wire and a brown wire. And then I need to connect this red line, my power line on my breadboard, to the power on my Arduino. So I'm going to draw another wire that's going to go all the way down here and to the pin on the Arduino that says 5V, 5 volts. I'm just going to zoom in so you can see that really clearly. There you go. So this wire is connected to the 5-volt one. I wish it was as easy to zoom in on the real Arduinos because my eyes are getting bad and I sometimes find it hard to see all of the reading. All right, so that is my circuit, and that is a complete circuit. So let's trace our circuit. We go from the Arduino through this brown wire up here from the ground to the minus line on my breadboard, carries along through this other brown wire to the servo motor, and then out through this red wire to the breadboard's red line, along the red line, through the second red wire, and then into the 5 volts. So back to our Arduino. So complete circuit, which is always a good thing. But we don't just want to have a complete circuit. We want to be able to send instructions to our servo motor. So we're going to use one more wire and we're going to connect it to this signal one. So I'm going to go from the signal here on my servo motor, and I'm going to go the opposite way around. Oh, that wasn't straight, Sophie. I'll fix it in a second. And I'm going to connect it to, I'm going to connect it to my digital pin. Sorry, my mouse is going a bit crazy there. Oh, there you go. I'm going to connect it to pin 2, I think, because that's nice and close. But since this is sending an instruction out, I'm going to change my wire color again and have a yellow wire. Okay, so now I have a complete circuit with nice straight wires. And I can send instructions out. So that is our circuit. Next, we're going to code it so that we can test it out on our pretend Arduino on the computer. Then we will build the circuit in real life. Okay, is everybody ready to do the coding? Give me a thumbs up if you are ready. So just to say that, so my wires are nice and curved. so that it can be nice and tidy. You can make curved ones. All you need to do is you click wherever you want to start. So on my breadboard here, I'm just going to make up a wire for this. And then instead of clicking to over here to point 8 directly, you put a mouse click in the middle, just here. So I do click there, and then I'm going to do another click here, click, and then I'm going to click down to the end. So you just need to do some clicks. I'm just going to delete that wire because it doesn't need to be there. Okay, all right, time to do our coding, everybody. Now, we are going to do a new thing with our coding today, which is really, which is something that's really, really useful. Okay, and that is called variables. So let's start, actually, I'll move this circuit so you can still see that bit. Let's start by bringing out our code here. And as always, it says, oh, would you like to use this code? We wouldn't like to use that code because it's boring. So we're going to delete the code in here like that. And we are going to send out a series of instructions that will make our servo motor move backwards and forwards. Okay. The instructions that we're going to give our servo motor is servo motor, we want you to be at a certain angle because this is how servo motors move. Work. You tell it what angle you want it to be. So you want it, you could say servo motor, I want you to be straight up like this, or servo motor, I want you to be flat like that. Servo motor, I want you to be upside down like that, or at an angle like that, or at an angle like that. So you need to tell it what angle, how far around you want it to be. We're going to tell it what angle we want our servo motor called variables. Now, variables are used all the time when we're coding because they're really, really useful. They're a way of getting the computer to remember something. Okay. All right. So I think that just going to hide this. Let's go here to this one that says variables. I'm not sure. I think some ticks have appeared on my screen. I don't know how or why, but you can just ignore those. Don't worry. Here are the variables. And what you do is you do create variable. Okay. Now, variable that I want to create is the angle that we tell the servo motor. So I'm going to call it angle. Wait, so if anyone is trying to draw on the screen, can you delete it, please, just so that everybody can see things, okay? So if you've drawn anything on the screen, please do delete it. Thank you very much. All right, so we've got this new variable name called angle. You can call your variable anything that you like, but it's always sensible to call it something that you're going to recognize what it is, just like we call our circuits and our code something sensible. Because you could call it, like, I don't know, Jeremy or something, but then you'd come back the next week and go, what does Jeremy mean? What's Jeremy? Whereas if I come back next week, I'll go angle. That's the angle of the servo motor. So I'm going to pop this thing in, and that just says computer Arduino, remember that angle is 0 to start with. All right. And that's going to be our start. And then we're going to change it. All right, so let's go to control because we're going to change it around and we're going to use a new command that we haven't used before, which is the repeat while loop. Now, that's kind of like a forever loop. And it says, so everything inside of our command will do this, will happen again and again and again, but it'll only happen while a condition is true. Now, we've used conditions before when we were saying whether it was too dark or too light. But we just want this to repeat while. And we're going to use some maths in here because I want that to repeat forever. And I'm going to say repeat while 1 is equal to 1. So this is going to repeat forever. Forever and ever and ever. Okay. So we've got our initial angle and we've got our repeat loop, which is just like a forever loop. And now we want to send an instruction out to our servo motor. We want to say, go to a certain angle. Now, because we're sending an instruction out, we're going to look to output, okay? Just like when we were sending instructions out to our LEDs. So if you go to output, you'll see that underneath the ones that are about set pins, you can say rotate servo pin, rotate servo on pin. You can pop that in here. Okay. Now my servo motor is on pin 2 here. You can see it's over here at pin 2. So I need to change that to pin 2. And I want to set it to the angle that I've set here. So set angle to 0. So I'm going to put it to the angle. Instead of saying always go to 0, I'm going to say go to angle. All right, now I'm going to pause for a minute because we've done a whole bunch of new bits and give you a chance to catch up. If you've got any questions about any of that, do pop it in the chat. We can have a chat about it. And then give me a thumbs up or something when you're ready for the next steps. Okay? All right. Oh, lots of different, lots of people having pizza. Oh, maybe I'll have pizza for tea. That sounds like a good plan. All right, I think we've got most people who are doing who are doing okay. So we'll move on to the next bit, but like I said, don't worry because this is being recorded. You can always watch it later on. Okay, so now what this would do at the moment is just say, set the servo to these. So that's like this, which is pretty boring, really. We want it to move, don't we? So we want this angle, this variable called angle, to change every time we go through a loop. So just like Sarah was showing you yesterday when we were going through, it changed the light. We want it to change the position. So we want it to go from here to here to here to here. All right, so we can change our variable, change the value of that number by clicking on variable here and saying change angle. So let's say change angle here. And I'm going to change it by, what should we change it by? 20? 20. All right, so that would mean that that after it does a 1, angle is not 0 anymore, it's 20. And then we go again, and angle wouldn't be 20 anymore, it would be 40, because every time it goes through, it changes that value by 20. And so it goes up and up and up and up. All right, now, I think we talked about previously when we were doing these loops, saying that computers are much quicker than. So we were going to, we needed to add in a little pause for it to think about it so that we could see it changing. So we're going to have a pause in here, which is in control, and then you can do wait 1 second. And then we'll see what happens. Okay, so now we've got some code that we can try. Some thumbs, fantastic. And I think everybody is ready right now. This is the moment of truth. We need to cross our fingers and see whether our code is working. All right, so you'll remember that we need to do that up here with the start and stop simulation. So 1, 2, 3, go. It's thinking about it. And now you can see it's moving and 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 moving, which is fantastic. So our code worked, but you'll see that it stopped even though I'm still simulating it. And that is because of how servo motors work. Oh, we've got a yay, so I know that somebody's is working. That's fantastic. So often servo motors only go halfway around the circle. So they go from here round to this point, and then they stop. And that's just the way a lot of servo motors are. You can have motors that go all the way around, but the ones that are in most of your packs will probably be the ones that only go half of the way. So we're just going to do that for now. And you can experiment with what your servo motors do in real life later on. Okay, so now we've built a circuit on Tinkercad and we've written some code for it. We need to check. We want to be able to send it to our real Arduinos. Okay, so if somebody could take a screenshot of the code and pop it in the chat, that would be brilliant. Because I'm going to stop sharing my screen in just a minute so that we can switch to Arduino Cam and we can build the circuit together. So while we're just getting that all together, just get out your breadboard and your Arduino here and some wires and your little servo motor. All right. Okay. Well, first of all, fantastic. So we've got that code. Thank you very much.
Somebody asked in the chat what the servo motor looks like. So I'm just sort of putting one up in front of my face. They look very much like the picture, but from the side, they look like this. Ah, things are moving. There we are. Dane's got one up as well. They're quite small. I can hold them between my fingers like this, and they've got a long wire. They might be all wrapped up in a little bag, and they might not have their little white horn on the top. Mine's got just one little stick. The one on Tinkercad has two. Yeah, see if you look at Dane's picture, Dane's video, he's got his in a separate little bag. So see if you can find that in your box.
Yeah, a couple of options there. So they come, so the servo motor itself is separate, and then the little horns or sails or wings, whatever you want to call them, are just loose, and so you can get them out. And that, choose that now, and you just sort of put it. There's a little, and it just sort of sticks on like that.
Yeah, like
so it looks very much like a little helicopter, just like in the Tinkercad drawing.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I also very quickly interrupt, Sophie, just we had someone asking in the chat about an error, and it's something that has come up in previous years. Variable names need to just be one word with no spaces in the middle. It's tempting to make them a really fun name or something long, but if you put a space in the middle of your variable name, the code will just get confused. It will think there's more than one variable, or I'm not sure what the actual description is, but it'll get very confused. So if you're getting strange errors, make sure that you only have one word as your variable name.
That's a really good point, Sarah. Yeah, computers are not very clever. They are very good at telling you exactly what they do, but it's very easy to confuse doing exactly what you tell them to. But it's very easy for them to get confused. So make it as simple as possible. Always a good plan. All right, I'm going to highlight the Arduino cam now. Spotlight for everyone. Here you go. So you can look at the servo motor in a little bit more detail, and also my keyboard, because that's where it is. So this is the servo motor on its own. Here you go. So it's got these 3 wires with a little house thing at the end. It probably has a technical name. I don't know what that is. And then here, just on the table, I've got my spinny bit, like the blades of a helicopter. So first thing I'm gonna do is pop the spinny bit on to my onto my motor, and let's see if I can do this without putting the Arduino cam down. I bet I can't. I'm going to ask my wonderful helper to come and hold the camera for me. Thank you. All right, so you can see, there you go. So here's my blades, and I'm just going to pop that on like that. Okay, and now it looks like a helicopter. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're just going to create the circuit that's just like the circuit that we made on Tinkercad. And we've got the name as the servo connector, and the white thing is the control horn. Thank you very much. I don't know the technical names for lots of these things. And also I just kicked my spinny wheel off because I wasn't paying attention. There we go, that's better. All right, so we're going to need some wires. Got my wires over here, and I'm going to connect firstly, I'm going to connect my Arduino to my breadboard. So I'm going to do ground here to the blue line. So this is just like what we've done before. Ground to the blue line, and then I'm going to do power to the 5 volts, which is over here on this other side of things. So that's 5 volts. Now, unfortunately, I don't have my normal Arduino kit, so I don't have all of the colors of wires that I normally do. So I'm not using the same colors, but that's okay. So I've got my 5 volts in there, and that's going to the red line up there. This one's a little bit stiff. That goes in there. Okay, so my breadboard is connected to my Arduino. Good. And then we're going to connect the breadboard to the motor. Okay. So let's start with taking a look at this. What was it called? A horn. This control horn. Okay, it's a bit blurry. There you go. Okay, now you'll see that there are 3 wires coming out of the control horn of the little white thing. Sorry, it's not being very good at focusing today, is it? There you go, that's a bit better. And what you want to do is connect your power to the red wire, your ground to the black wire, and your signal in a minute to the white wire. Now, you might have different colors of wires. If you might have different colors of wires, but they should normally be in that same order. So ground on one, edge, power on the other, and signal in the middle. Sarah, shall I spotlight you for a second so you can show the different colors? There we go. I've spotlighted you.
Mine's a black ended one, and I've got the 3 wires, the same as on Tinkercad, but mine's a little black connector on the end.
Yeah. So they do look a bit different depending on which button, which kit you've got. So I'm going to plug in my first wire, which is a bit tricky because my servo motor is wiggling around a little bit. I might have to, there we go. Oh, all right. Okay, so I've stuck 1 wire in here. That is going to the black, so that's going to the ground for me. So I'm going to put 1 wire from there and put it in the blue line on my Arduino, just like it is on Tinkercad. So there you go. So it goes from that blue all the way up to the wire here. I'm going to do another one to the power. Let's try it the other way around. So I'm going to put it into the power one here to start with. Like that. So it is hopefully a little bit easier for you because you're not holding a phone at the same time as trying to plug everything in that's all wriggling around because you can't hold it all. But they can.
Marvelous job, Sophie.
Thank you. But you do always have to be a little bit patient when you're creating circuits because the wires are a bit small, they're a bit fiddly. And so you just need to be a little bit patient to make sure that everything's in neatly. So I've got this to power, and so that goes to the one on the other side of my little connector. All right, so I'm going to put my phone down just for a minute to do that because I'm not going to be able to plug that in otherwise. But there you go. Now you can see that that is plugged in to the power. So it goes the green wire here. This green wire here goes from power down to the red line on there, just like it did on the circuit up there. And then we've got one final wire. I'm going to use a yellow one. And I'm going to go from the middle wire, middle connector here, to pin 2 on my Arduino. Okay, so I'm going to put you down for a second so I can plug it in properly and not unplug everything else in the process. There you go. Now that is plugged in to the middle one. And then I need to take this other end of my yellow wire and plug it in to pin 2 on my Arduino. And I'm definitely going to manage this without, while still holding my phone. There you go. So that is connected to pin 2 on my Arduino. Oh, and it's just flipped its orientation. I don't know how I did that, but anyway. Okay, so now we have our circuit that is connected to our lovely little motor. Yeah. Okay. There. Does it look like I'm sharing the right bit? It does, doesn't it? Good. Okay, so just like before, we're going to use the Arduino app to send our code to our circuits. So I'm going to add a new tab. I'm going to search for the Arduino app, and maybe Sarah or Dane or Kate could put it in the chat so you've got the link and go to this Arduino app. Yes, things have changed. Okay, I know, things have always changed. So this is just the same as before. We're going to click on code because we want to do a new code, and we're going to create a new project. So you click on that. And now please remember, it's important to give your project a name with some letters in it. So I'm going to call mine GYO session 6. If you don't give it a name, then sometimes that makes Arduino really sad and a bit confused about what it's doing. So it's always sensible to give it a name. So giving it a name like that. And then it says, oh, would you like to do this blink code? We don't want to do that. So we're going to highlight all of it and delete it. Okay, so far so good. We've done this before. Let's head back to Tinkercad so we can copy our code. Now remember, we go from blocks up here to blocks plus text, like this. And then we get this code in a different language. I'm going to copy it all like this, highlight it, and then do Control-C. And then in the Arduino app, I'm going to do Control-B. All right. Now, give me a thumbs up or something when you're ready, because this next bit is new, and so I want to make sure everybody gets it. So I'll show you the next bit in just a moment, because we're doing a new kind of thing. And the reason that we need to do this extra bit is because actually servo motors, talking to servo motors, is quite complicated. It needs a lot of, the Arduino needs a lot of instructions to be like, oh, that's what you want me to do, is it? And so it needs quite a lot of things, but thankfully, like a lot of code, thankfully it's lots of other people have already done quite a lot of this for you. And so they've written some code that's basically, okay, well, Arduino, if the code says this, then it means move the servo motor like that. And they've written that, and you can just include all of that stuff that they've already done in your code, which makes life much, much easier. And that is called a library. There are lots and lots of different libraries that are used for all kinds of different things. So we are going to add a library in Arduino so that it knows how to do it. So you'll see up here on the top, on the left-hand side, it says libraries. So we click on that and it thinks about it, and it's like, oh, wow, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of libraries that you could add. But we want to add one that's for servo motors. So if you click in this button, a box at the top, top right, which is the search one, and you type servo, so SERVO, you'll see that there are lots of different libraries that it's already that are already done, that the computer has already said, oh, look, people have said you can use these instructions. So we just want the top one, which is just called servo. And then if you go over here on the right, you can say add to project. So you just have to click that add button here, and I will add it. And then Arduino will know that all of those instructions that this person, Michael, has already written, it will know all of those instructions. So you just need to make sure that that is added to your code. All right. They're really, really useful things, libraries. People have a little party when they realize that someone's written a library for this thing that they needed to do already. Makes life so much easier. All right. Now let's head back to the code. And from here, it's just the same as we've done before. So we're going to select our device, and then we're going to send it to the Arduino. So is everyone okay with that library? Has everybody added the library to it? If you have, give me a thumbs up, or an emoji, or pop a note in the chat. Caitlin's done it. Thank you very much, Caitlin. And Dane is there too. Fantastic. So you just need to click on libraries and then search for servo. We've got some thumbs up already. Brilliant job, everybody. So I'm going to head back to code here, and I'm going to select my Arduino. So I go to select device down here at the bottom on the right, and say, yep, computer, the Arduino is correct, is connected to USB serial device COM12. Yours will say something slightly different, most likely. It might say Arduino, which is always helpful. It just depends on your computer. Then we connect. Then you'll see here that's all written up properly. Now I've connected my Arduino in a way that I've never done it before, so this might not work, everyone. It'll be exciting to see if it does. So we've connected. It says serial selected down here at the bottom, and we're going to send this off. So just like Sarah's just popped in the chat, if you're not ready yet, don't worry at all. But we're going to finish up so that we can finish the video off in the next 5 minutes or so. And then we can help you finish yours, or it's all recorded, so you can always pause it and watch us again then. Okay? All right, so the last thing, compile and upload. I'm going to send this here. So it's compiling. Oh, did I press compiling code? And there it is done. Oh, and my Arduino, my little motor is moving. Hooray. All right. Well done, everybody. That was super fast. I know, but you all did really well to keep up. So good job, and good job for the whole of Glow Your Own. I'm so impressed with all of the amazing code that you've done and all of the beautiful lanterns that you made. We would love to see any pictures of your circuits or of your code or of your lanterns, because that's one of our favorite parts, of seeing what everybody has created. All right, I'm going to try and stop my screen, but I've realized that I had to unplug my mouse to plug my Arduino in. So I've entirely lost the stop sharing button. There you go. And I'm going to hand back over to Dane, but well done, everybody. You should be so, so proud of yourselves.
Great. Well, thanks, Sophie, for that. Really exciting, and well done, everybody, for getting your coding done. I've done a little bit of extra coding that is on the sheet that is available on the Glow Your Own website. So all you have to do is go to rutherford.com/GYO, and that goes to the Glow Your Own page. And on session 6, there'll be the worksheet that has this extra bit of code. And so it means that when your servo motor goes round 180 degrees, when it hits the end of that 180 degrees, it will turn back and it will just go backwards and forwards in a semicircle. And so by adding in the code of what we've done over the past few weeks, I'm going to get my Arduino cam. So I've got this little piece of code on my egg box. It's going round and round by 180 degrees, and we'll stop and we'll go back in the other direction. So once you've got to play with a bit of your code and a bit of your making, you can make things that turn off and on. You can have them respond to how bright it is in your room. You can build in movement, and you can make your own little Tinkercad Arduino robot. So well done for participating in 6 sessions of Glow Your Own. It's really good to see everyone learning from scratch how to build a really basic robot or a lantern and see how creative you are. So we're going to hand on to the troubleshooting in a sec. But meanwhile, well done, everybody, and thanks for joining. And we'll see you hopefully next time round with the festival and Glow Your Own. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
That is fab.
Oh,
I
That
love
is amazing.
That is so cool.
This is so great.
Is that tinfoil inside there?
That is
Wow.
extra reflectors.
Oh, it looks
sure.
amazing.
Nice.
That's so inventive. I love that.
Fantastic.
Well done. That's fab.
Really, really great. Oh, I want one.
I want one. I'm going to do that with my egg boxes.
On the
Okay.
Just wanted
Oh
to
my
say
God.
thank you so much for before we go. It's been absolutely fabulous. Really good. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
We've had a
I-
lovely time too.
Awesome.
I'm happy that
Thank
you've
you.
enjoyed it.
Yeah. And I'm not I can't give the help that you guys have been able to do for them. So thank you.
But the thing, what we've been trying to do is to give you a couple of tips and ideas of kind of where to start. And there's quite a lot of information online.
Yeah.
So now you're a bit more familiar with what a breadboard is, what an Arduino is, Tinkercad, Arduino, and the kind of basic troubleshooting of just unplug everything, refresh it, plug everything back in.
And again and again and again.
It's a starting point to go, well, at least you know what to search for on Google now, to go, let's try and build a more ambitious project and look for things, because sometimes
great.
it's knowing where to start the difficult thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Glow Your Own will be back next year. The festival will be back next year. When it comes around again, you can join back in.
We will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.
Bye, Henry.
Bye.
Bye, Henry.